My name is Sherwin E. Prado, Unit 11, Structural Implementation. Objectives: describe the types of organizational structures, define organizational design and change, explain the structure's 4 strategies. Organizational structure: it is a set of formal tasks and reporting relationships which provide a framework for control and coordination within the organization. The visual presentation of organizational structure is called organizational chart. The purpose of organization structure is to coordinate and integrate the efforts of employees at all levels, corporate, business, and functional levels, so that they work together to achieve the specific set of strategies. 2 aspects of organizational structure. Superstructure. It is a highly visible part of the organizational structure. This depicts how people are grouped into different visions, departments, and sections and how they are related to each other. Infrastructure. It is a comparatively less visible part of the organizational structure. It is a concern with issues like delegation of authority, specialization, communication, information system, and procedures. Basic principles of organizational structure. Hierarchy, who reports to whom, and the span of control. Span of control is the number of people reporting to a supervisor. It determines how closely a supervisor can monitor subordinates. It is a common type of organizational structure. The chain of command goes from the top, from the CEO or manager, down to entry-level and low-level employees. Each employee has a supervisor. Chain of command, an unbroken line of authority that links all persons in an organization and shows who reports to whom. It has 2 underlying principles. Unity of command means that each employee is held accountable to only one supervisor. For example, a chain of command might include an intern who reports to an employee, who reports to their manager, who reports to a senior manager, and who reports to the vice president of the company, then reports to the CEO or the chief executive officer of the company. Number 3. Specialization, sometimes called division of labor. It is a degree to which organizational tasks are subdivided into separate jobs, despite the apparent advantage of specialization. Many organizations are moving away from this principle. The division of labor into several small tasks ensure employees to complete their work in time. In KFC, for example, work specialization is implemented in such a way that the cashier takes the order, the chef prepares the food, as the branch manager supervises the whole process. Number 4. Authority, responsibility, and delegation. It is a formal and legitimate right of manager to make decisions, issues orders, allocate resources, and command obedience. Responsibility is the duty to perform the task or activity an employee has been assigned. Giving a direction to a subordinate and telling them exactly what to do. Assigning someone to compile research, gather feedback, and report back to you so you can inform decisions. Number 5. Centralization and decentralization. Centralization means the decision making is done at the top levels of the organization. Decentralization means that decision making is pushed down to the lower levels in the organization. Example, at the Starbucks, most of the day-to-day decision making is centralized in this functional hierarchy, which led by the CEO includes the heads of the company's functional departments, product-based divisions, and geographic division who exercise top-to-down control over the department and individual below them. Nestle operated with a complicated, decentralized matrix structure organizational structure which permitted a high level of autonomy and independence within subsidiary brands and companies. Number 6. Formalization. The extent to which written documentation is used to direct and control employees. Written documentation includes rules, regulations, policies, procedures, job description, etc. These documents complement the organizational structure by providing descriptions of tasks, responsibility, and authority. For example, McDonald's has a famous bureaucratic structure where employee jobs are highly formalized with clear lines, communication, and specific job description. Number 7. Departmentalization means grouping position into departments and departments into total organizations. For example, a toy company may have a department for ordering the raw materials, one for building toys, and third department for transporting them. Organizational design. The process of designing an organization structure to match with this situation. Step-by-step methodology which identifies dysfunctional aspect of workflow, procedures, structures, and system realigns them to fit current business realities, goals, and develops plans to implement the new changes. Relation between strategy and structure. In a classic study of large U.S. corporations such as DuPont, General Motors, Sears, and Standard Oil, Alfred Chandler concluded that structured follows strategy. He also concluded that no organization follows a pattern of develop from one kind of structure arrangement to another as they expand. According to Chandler, this structure change occurred because the old structure was not suitable.
Chandler therefore proposed the following as a sequence of what occurs. New strategy created. New strategy are so important. Having a clear and focused strategy is critically important to the success of your business. And without a well-defined strategy, yours may stall or even fail. If you can take the emotion out of your decision-making process, you will have a business and a team that is more focused, more productive, and more profitable. New administrative problem emerge. Economic performance decline. New appropriate structure is invented and profit returns to its previous level. As they add new product lines, purchase their own source of supply, and create their own distribution networks, they become too complex for highly centralized structure. To remain successful, this type of organization need to shift to a decentralized structure with several divisions. Strategy, structure, and environment need to be closely aligned. Otherwise, organizational performance will likely suffer. Improving effectiveness of traditional organizational structures. According to Mintzberg, there are four main characteristics of environment that influence structure. Type of environment. Rate of change. Range. Static to dynamic. Pag sinabing static is walang pabago-bago at dynamic is pabago-bago. Consequence for organizational structure. As rate of change increase, the organizational needs to be kept more flexible. Rate of change. When the organization operates in a more dynamic environment, it needs to be able to respond quickly to the rapid change that occur. What is dynamic environment? It's a business environment that is rapidly changing. In a dynamic market, businesses have to adapt quickly to change and develop new ideas, products, and services to keep it up technology and new trends. The second one is the degree of complexity. Range. Simple to complex. Pagiging simple to komplikado. Consequence of the organizational structure. Greater complexity needs more formal coordination. Degree of complexity. One method of simplifying the complexity is decentralized decision in that particular area. The complex environment will usually benefit from a decentralized structure. Complexity pertains to the degrees of freedom that are taken away so that parts can function as such. It is often said that in emergence that whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Complexity can occur in that discourse. Decentralized decision-making is any process where the decision-making authority is distributed throughout a larger group. The third one of the type of environment is market complexity. Range. Involved in single market involved in diversified markets. Consequence for organizational structure. As markets become more diversified, diversification become advisable. Market complexity. Kailangan natiin ng organisasyon hanggat hindi maapektuhan ang synergy. Ano nga ba ang synergy? Ang synergy as konsepto ng halagaan ng pagganap ng dalawang kumpanya na pinagsama na mas malaki kaysa mga kabuuan ng mga individual. The last one of the type of environment. Competitive situation. Range. Passive and hostile. Consequences for organizational structure. Greater hostility probably needs the protection of greater centralization. Competitive situation. In deeply hostile environments, however, extra resources and even legal protection may be needed. These are usually more readily provided by central headquarters. As markets become more hostile, the organization usually needs to be more centralized. Work teams' objectives must include involving all levels of staff in consultation. Designing and implementing a process to develop goals and objectives for the organizational and unit. A strategic process for the next 5 to 10 years. Defining and clarifying organizational structures and identifying function, customers, and service delivery models. Identifying changes in stage approaches needed to move from the current situation to what will be required over the next 3 to 5 years. Identifying and recommending priorities for policy and program development. Incorporating goals for expenditure reduction, service quality improvement, workforce management, accountability, technology, and business process improvement. Types of organizational structures. There are 7 basic types of organizational structure. Simple structure, functional structure, derivational structure, SBO structure, matrix structure, network structure, and virtual structure. One is simple structure. The owner, manager, controls all activities and make all the decision. This structure may be appropriate for small and young organization. Coordination of tasks is done through direct supervision. There is a little specialization of tasks, few rules and regulation, and communication is informal. In figure 1, simple structure. There are owner, manager, and the employees. Number 2, functional structure. Group based on major function performed. Each function is led by a functional specialist. Functional structures are formed in organization in which there is a single or closely related product or service. In figure 2, in a functional structure, there is a CEO. It includes the manufacturing, marketing, finance, human resources, and R&D, or the research development. Number 3, divisional structure, used by diversified organization. In a divisional structure, divisions are created as self-contained units with separate functional departments for each division. In figure 3, divisional structure, there are CEO and there are 3 divisions. In division 1, there are manufacturing, marketing, finance, and HR. In division 2 and division 3, there are also manufacturing, marketing, finance, and HR. Same as
SBU structure is a strategic business unit, popularly known as SBU, is a fully functional unit of a business that has its own vision and direction. Typically, a strategic business unit operates as a separate unit, but it is also an important part of the company. It reports to the headquarters about its operational status. The part of SBU structure is President, Corporate Marketing, Corporate R&D, Corporate Planning, Corporate Production, corporate human resources, and so on. Nag-ooperate siya as a separate unit pero mahalaga pa rin siyang parte ng isang kumpanya. They are more likely operates independently and focus on the target market. Mostly, it works best for organizations which have multiple product structure. Matrix structure, a combination of functional and divisional structures. In this structure, there are functional managers and product or project managers. Employees report to one functional manager and to one or more project managers. And these are the list of matrix structure. Matrix structure is combination of two or more types of organizational structure. It is a way of arranging business so that you set up reporting relationship. So matrix structure employees report to one functional manager and to one or more project managers. Network structure. A network organization outsources or subcontracts many of its major functions to separate companies and coordinates their activities for a small headquarters. Rather than being housed under one roof, activities like design, manufacturing, marketing, distribution, etc. are outsourced to separate organizations that are connected electronically to the central office. These are the chart of network structure. Newer type of organizational structure view as less hierarchical, more decentralized, and more flexible than other structure. The control and coordinations of manager are both internal and external. Para, para siyang maraming brand or outsourced were they connected because of the common goals. Virtual organization. This is an extension of the network structure. It is approach independent organizations from temporary alliance to exploit specific opportunities, then disband when their objectives are met. The term virtual means being in effect but not actually so. Dynamic set of individuals or institutions defined around a set of resources. Sharing rules and conditions. Parang extension lang ng network structure ang virtual organization. It is a borderless organization kasi web-based. Creating agile virtual organization. Beijing way to manage change and to compete in rapidly changing business world kung saan the workers interact and communicate to deliver value to their customers faster and easiest. Advantage and disadvantage. The advantage is it can draw on expertise worldwide. It is highest, flexible, and responsive. It reduces overhead costs. Advantage, may advantage ang virtual because it is spread worldwide dahil this is web-based. Flexible and responsive for customers because it easy to communicate online, also reduce overhead costs. Disadvantage, lack of control because the boundaries of virtual organization are weak and ambiguous. Virtual teams places new demand on managers who have to work with new people, new ideas, and new problems. Virtual organizations possess communication difficulties and managers may lose motivation. The disadvantage, however, the disadvantage, lack of control. Dahil ang workers are only seen online not physically, may demand din sa managers na kailangang gabayan ng mga new people and ideas from the different perspective. Hindi din sapat yung internet for all which it lead to communication difficulties. 5. Modular organization. A modular organization is in contrast to a composite organization in which there is no separation between functions. Modular organization is also distinct from hierarchical organization. Modular organization is chiefly concerned with the horizontal design of system. In modular organization, the units are involved in the design process of product. with interchangeable components. Also, it is a hierarchical organization where it has different level of authority. It concerns to horizontal design of a system where it can enhance the performance. Modularity allows components to be produced separately and use interchangeability in different configurations, where tasks are designed to individual modules.
Towards boundaryless structures. Traditional companies with boundaries, rules, and extensive plans are at a supreme disadvantage in today's globalized world, where technology changes daily and the value change command changes of its own. In a traditional company where people are categorized into neatly defined position with their job description filled in triplicate in the human resource department. The way the way a company plans its business can cause it to seek despite planning because the boundaries can mean lost opportunities, being overtaken by the competition, loss of revenues, or watching its niche slip away because of a new technology, an alternation in the global marketplace, or simply a failure to market its product effectively. Today globalized world, we need to adaptability and flexibility are important criteria of boundaryless organization. Boundaryless organization will often make use of the latest technology and tools to facilitate the breaking down of traditional borders, such as virtual collaboration and flexible working. Structures for strategies. The early 1960s, the U.S. strategist Alfred Chandler studied how some leading U.S. corporations had developed their strategies in the first half of the 20th century. He then drew some major conclusions from this empirical evidence. The foremost one being that the organization first needed to develop its strategy and after this to devise the organization structure that delivered the strategy. Chandler drew a clear distinction between devising a strategy and implementing it. He defined strategies as the determination of the basic long-term goals and basic and objective of an enterprise and the adoption of courses of action that allocation of resource necessary of carrying out those goals. Chandler research suggested that once strategy had been developed, it was necessary to consider the structure needed to carry it out. A new strategy might require extra resources or new personnel or equipment which would alter the work of enterprise. According to Chandler, strategy entails choosing long-term goals and objectives, choosing a course of action, and allocating the necessary resources. According to him, structure refers to how an organization is set up to implement strategy. Changes in business environment and social values. Early 20th century. Under Educated workers typically just move from agriculture work into cities. Knowledge of simple engineering and technology. And the new science of management recognize simple cause and effect relationship and growing newly industrializing markets and suppliers and sharp distinction between management and workers. And the early first century, better educated computers, literate skill, complex computer driven, large scale, multiplicated and complex nature of management now partially understood, mix of some nature cyclical markets and some high growth new technology, markets, and supplier. Greater overlap between management and workers in some industrialized countries. To understand why it's no longer appropriate to develop an organization structure after deciding a strategy, the earlier theory needs to be placed in its historic strategic context since Chandler research in the early 20th century. The environment has changed substantially. The workplace itself, the relationship between workers and managers, and the skills of employees have all altered substantially. Old organizational structures embedded in past understanding may therefore be suspect. Strategy and structure are interlinked. According to modern strategies and structure are interlinked. It may not be optimal for an organization to develop its structure after it has developed its strategy. The relationship is more complex into two respects. One, strategy and the structure associated with it may need to develop at the same time in an experimental way. Number two, if strategy process is emergent, then learning and experimentation involved may need a more open and less formal organization structure. Managing the complexity of strategic change. Quinn suggests the strategic change may need to proceed incrementally in small stages. He called the process logical incrementalism. The clear implication is that it may not be possible to define the final organization structure, which may also need to evolve as the strategy moves forward incrementally. He recognized the importance of informal organization structures in achieving agreements to strategy shifts. If the argument is correct, it will be evident that my idea of a single final organization structure after deciding on a defined strategy is dubious. Criticism of the strategy first structure afterwards process. Number one, structures may be too rigid, hierarchical, and bureaucratic to cope with the newer social values and rapidly changing environment. Number two, the type of structure is just as important as the business area in developing the organization strategy. It is the structure that will restrict, guide, and form to strategy. 3. Value chain communication that favor cost cutting or alternatively new market opportunities may also alter the organization required. Number 4. The complexity of strategic change need to be managed, implying that more complex organization consideration will be involved. Simple configurations such as move from a functional to a divisional structure are only a starting point in the process. And the last, the role of and middle management in the formulation of strategy may also need to be reassessed. Chandler's view the strategy is decided by the top leadership alone has been challenged, particularly for new innovative strategies. Middle management and the organization's culture and structure may be important. The work of the leader in empowering middle management may require a new approach. The organic style of leadership. The concept of strategic fit. Although it might not be possible to define which comes first. There is a need to ensure the strategy and structure are consistent with each other. For example, PepsiCo recognizes its North American business to ensure that its strengths in the growing non-carbonated drinks markets could be exploited across its full range of drinks for organization to be economically effective. There needs to be a matching process between the organization's strategy and structure. This is concept of strategic fit. In essence, of organization need to adopt an internally consistent set of practices in order to undertake the purpose strategy effectively. It said should be said that such practices will involve more than the organization structure. There is strong empirical evidence both from Chandler and Cinch that there does need to be a degree of strategic fit between strategy and the organization structure. Although the environment is changing all the time, organization may only change slowly and not keep pace with external.